Mark's not here with us tonight.
We might need just to turn the sound down a bit there, just a smidgen.
Okay. All right. Too loud for you, councillor?
Yeah, it was waking me up there. No, it's just a slight backfeed.
Council, with the leave of the meeting, I would like to bring forward 2 items. That'll be 7.2.1, which is the review of public submissions and final adjustments to the annual budget and business plan and budget for 2022 and 2023 financial year, and a confidential item 8.2.1, which is the Mount Pleasant Caravan Park tender for upgrade works. Now, the reason for this is the need for us to resolve that prior to adopting the annual business plan and budget. So these 2 items will come before item 2, which is the Mayor's report on the agenda, and we need to have those items dealt with prior to the 6 p.m. special meeting where we'll adopt the budget. All okay?
Do you have a motion to that effect?
No, I just need to with the leave of the meeting, point that out to you. Thank you. Apologies, we have an apology from Councillor Troop. Would someone move that apology? Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Louise Smith. All those in favour? Carried. Previous minutes for confirmation. The council meeting held on Tuesday the 21st of June at 2022 at 9 a.m. Someone move those minutes be adopted. Moved Councillor Louise Smith and seconded Councillor Haybeck. All those in favour? Carried. There's no matters arising from those minutes. There's no deputation, no notice of motion or any questions with or without notice. Members, if we can now move to those 2 items that I raised earlier, 7.2.1, which is the review of the public submissions and final adjustments to the annual budget and business plan budget for 2022-2023 financial year. So that is 7.2.1 in your agendas. Any questions? Question?
Not a question, I've got a comment I'd like to make in relation to it.
I'll get a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Johnston. Either one of you wish to speak to it?
Not really, it's pretty self-explanatory, and to summarise it would take about half an hour. So.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston?
Only to note that we've seen this several times.
Thank you. Councillor Barron?
Yeah, the comment, it's in relation to the table 1, the public submissions, and it's on page 185, the very first item under the public submissions to do with the bike trail pedestrian path from Williamstown out to the South Borough. And my concerns with it is that it's written here in front of us that it forms part of the Adelaide Wine Trail proposal. On my understanding, from having read the feasibility report put out by that particular body, it doesn't form part of that trail. And it is a separate trail altogether that we as a council were possibly embarking upon. And I'll just read a few things that why I've got that concern, because it's not part of the trail. In November 2021, the Great Australian Wild Trail Concept Feasibility released a report. The report was relatively comprehensive, including the maps, the proposed route of the trail and recommended stages of development of the trail. Nowhere within that report was a mention of a side trail from the township of Williamstown out to the South Borough. It just does not form part of the wine trail. If we're talking of a trail from the township of Williamstown out to the Warren Reservoir, then we're talking a different matter. It forms part of the Great Australian Wine Trail. Why is this important? Because in the aforementioned feasibility report, a set of trail investment priorities have developed that help guide the recommended investment priorities along the trail. Based on those priorities, the trail was divided into the recommended stages of development. The report digressed somewhat, talking about councils investing their own capital for local interconnecting or spoke trails for community wellbeing and connectedness, and for other reasons important to the organisation and their stakeholders. Based on the aforementioned sentence, the proposed infrastructure spend, whilst not forming part of the Great Australian Wine Trail, has jumped the queue under the name of the Great Australian Wine Trail with a recommendation of delivery in 2023-2024. Already listed in the stage one development from that feasibility study, from the Barossa Council boundary and in the North Para down to Cromer's Crossing to Lindau, and the Barossa Council boundary to Mount Pleasant. So there's 3 areas already in that wine trail that are listed, and this one is not. And it's come from left field, and it just doesn't form part of it. And I can't see why it shouldn't have gone through a process or a new initiative rather than just come up this way. And that's why I feel uncomfortable in voting in favour of this motion, even though I can see why I should be voting in favour of this motion, but whilst that one item is there, I have great difficulty supporting it. So that's where my concerns are under this particular item. I don't know if other members are aware of the feasibility study.
Look, councillor, thanks for bringing that point up. You are correct. It doesn't form part of the Australian Wine Trail as we've plotted the trail. It came through as an email submission, as I understand, and probably should be dealt with in that context. That's me. Sorry about that.
So do we vote against it?
So yeah, look, that statement to say that it forms part is an oversight, I would say, as far as that's concerned. Can I suggest that we can probably delete that from there?
Are we deleting that whole item and it will come through as a new initiative and consider it later, or are we going to delete just the delivery of it in 23-24?
I think there's merit in my opinion. It's probably best because it is misleading when we say it is part of the Australian Wine Trail. But I think because we've had a public submission with regard to the connection to the South Para, that could be something that could be considered in future budgets by the new council. If everyone's in agreement with that.
What about the timing then, Mayor?
Councillor Johnston.
I wonder if it would help the chamber if we recognise that this is a thing that the Williamstown community have been seeking for quite some time.
Oh yeah, they have been.
And so it's not something new.
No.
And I think Councillor Barrett's correct. That first paragraph is misleading, but we should push on with it because it's that safe pedestrian access to the South Para that we're seeking.
And that's what I think the Williamstown community is looking for, is that pedestrian access now that the South Para has been opened up in more recent times. Councillor De Vries and Councillor Wee-Smith.
Yes, the move of the motion, if you want to remove the first part of the recommendation, which is basically the summary, and then just start with the terms recommended be costed up in the 22-23 for budget consideration, because we're not committing to anything. We're just literally saying we're willing to at least look at it financially next year. So I'm happy to remove that because it doesn't substantially change the motion, but if it makes it clearer so that it doesn't cause confusion, I'm happy for that to be removed.
I agree with that.
There's a seconder, yep, all right.
Will that solve the problem?
Yes, I'm more than happy with that.
Okay.
It's just,
Well,
in
that case, just take that.
I've always been in favour of the motion, but not what was underlying the motion. And
Okay,
that's what I
that's
feel
fine.
comfortable with.
Thank you. Councillor Wee-Smith.
Only to comment, I'm glad Councillor Barrett brought that up because I was going to bring that one up too. It's not only misleading, it is incorrect. As Councillor Johnston has said, something the community has been looking for a while, and I think it ties in really nicely with another new initiative we've had sitting in the bucket for a few years in regards to the Victoria Terrace footbridge. So I think this is something we really need to get to work on, because of course we know how busy the Southern Barossa is now, and particularly the South Para. But thank you, Councillor Barrett, for drawing attention to that.
Thank you. Okay, any further comments? If not, we've made that amendment, the mover and a seconder are happy with that. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Now, members, we now need to move into confidence, so I just ask the gallery, we'll just go into confidence and you're more than welcome to wait in the foyer and then we'll come back into the formal meeting
You
in
want
a
to
few
move it?
moments. Yep, moved Councillor Louise Smith, seconded Councillor Hearn, thank you.
Yeah, I know.
All those in favour? We move into confidence, carried.
He gets to this side of the chain.
Sorry, John.
Thank you. We'll go to item 2, which is the Mayor's report on page 5. Any questions?
Move that the report be received.
Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Johnston. All those in favour? Carried. We'll move to items 4.2, which is the consensus agenda. Is there any items for questions or clarification? With the motion then that the consensus agenda be adopted, as
I move that it be.
Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Johnston. All those in favour? Carried. Brian, come forward, sir. Members, gallery and staff, Mr. Brian Keane. G'day mate, how are you? Brian, it says here that you started volunteering at the Barossa and Light Community Transport in 1994. Was there any spell between managing the South Para and the Warren and the Barossa Reservoir?
I'd retired then,
You retired then,
94.
94, so you jumped straight into the community transport.
That's
So-
something.
You had to do something. No, terrific, mate. Well done. And right from the program, when it started, you was there right from the word go, as I understand it, and not only helped out with our car trips, but also was an active volunteer on the bus roster till 2011. Sound right? Yeah. Good. And we didn't start recording your hours and kilometres until 2003. So there's a number of kilometres we don't know, but you know where you've been, don't you? Yeah, no, very good. So, and you've contributed over 2,000 hours of volunteering and driving some 72 kilometres. Ryan, you've been a wonderful contributor to the region, not only in the days down in the Warren, but also with council and your volunteering, the manner in which you've gone about it. You've always had a cheeky nature, they say. I thought it was cheerful, but it says cheeky. It's shy. So look, congratulations, Brian. On behalf of the elected members, staff, and the community, thank you so much for your valued contribution. It's greatly appreciated.
While I was volunteering here, I was at 17 years in relation.
Did you? Okay. There's no doubt about you. So what do you got planned now?
Retired.
I'm waiting for October to do a bit of fishing, I hope.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah.
And some of remember all the
Well, you know all the spots out there, don't you?
no, I don't.
Oh, don't you? So congratulations to you, Brian. Well done and thanks very much. Good on you. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Well done.
Tony.
Good lady. Better every day.
My mirror doesn't say that. Thanks, Cass. Good to see you. Want her to go home now?
No, you have to stay to the end.
Brian, you're more than welcome to stay.
You gotta suffer with us.
I'll wait for a good meal for you.
Good on you, mate. Thank you.
Councillors.
See ya. Bye-bye.
We'll now move on to
Thank you.
reports from the Office of Mayor and the CEO at 7.2.2, which is the Legatus Strategic Plan and Long-Term Financial Plan on page 197.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved Councillor Rees, seconded Councillor Johnson. You got a question? Mr. Speak, either one?
Yeah, just a little bit. I guess for the benefit of the gallery, we're part of a group called Legatus, which is sort of deals with the near north in terms of, I guess we're in there because originally we wanted to do it because it enabled us to access grant funding for roads. But as a result of, I guess, growth of the roles of Legatus, their budget has also tended to blow out as a result, and we're now starting to question whether or not all of the services that they're providing are necessarily ones that we want to be a part of. So at the very least, the council would like them to operate within the means of the budget and not operate outside of that for the time being until we can sort of deal with that in a greater level, and that will no doubt take place after the election.
Well, look, I'd support this motion because there's an opportunity to make sure that Legatus understands what it's for, what it's about, what it should do, and make sure it balances its books. So I think this is a pretty important motion. And we've been concerned as a council for some time about the way this group's been operating, not necessarily always with services that we require. So it's important for our ratepayers' perspective to make sure we're getting bang for the buck.
Councillor Boothby.
Thanks, Mayor. I've made these comments before and I'll make them one more time before I run out of time. And I had a chat to the CEO yesterday on this one, just because I guess trying to just have some context again for future council decision making. This is, our current investment's $11,000 a year. So it's just trying to have some reasonable expectations for $11,000 a year. If we doubled that, which the long-term financial plan says we would need to be able to actually deliver that strategic plan, it's then, it's still under $30,000 a year. So having said that, understanding that still ratepayers' funds need to be well spent. In nearly 8 years on this council, we have, to my knowledge, we have not had a conversation about what we want from this group. and what we would like them to work on. So the 15 councils this is the biggest regional local government region. So it is clunky because it has a huge board in terms of all the mayors, that's correct, are the board. So I guess moving forward, it'd be great to have the council have a conversation about what we want from this group, and then work out what the benefits are based on what our investment is. Because, the benefit of all 15 councils being part of that is that you can do more, but not all the work they do is going to necessarily benefit every single council in the same way. And the other thing, in terms of our role as a leader in that group, as one of the larger councils, there are lots of very small councils in that group, and what role we want to play as a leader as well. So I just think it'd be great for the next council to have that conversation about what it is we want, rather than just constantly saying that we're not happy.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yep, Councillor Barrett.
Yeah, the map on came up page 201. I just wish they could get us the right council. They can't even get us as the right council.
You're right. Thank you.
Do we need a motion?
Any other question? Well, I think in the future, and I'll take Councillor Boothby's point, that there is a need to really do a deep dive and start to work out exactly where Legatus and where all the regional councils fit at this particular time. I think there's things in the LGA that probably have all got a little bit scattergun as well. So and I know with the new chairperson, I'm keen to catch up with him, and I know there's some things that's come out of this financial plan that's now making people sit up and take a notice as to what the future should be. So I think your point's valid, that we need to give some clear direction and what the future is, and ensure that we're not duplicating things and working in a strategic way. Okay.
Just closing the debate, saying that just some summary to some of what has just been said is that in a historical context, we used to be part of Legatus, but it had a different name back then, but we were also part of the Southern and Hills region, and we've always sat right on the edge of the two. And so at one time we were actually in both, and then we were in two minds which way we wanted to go, and we went to the north because it was seen as a grant. From a grant point of view, that was the best fit. I'm inclined to agree with his worship that perhaps a third option might be a better one, that maybe Legatus, its constituency isn't maybe correct, and maybe there needs to be a third option, which is maybe some sort of peri-urban, and that's where I think we would naturally sit. But these are discussions I think that need to be teased out.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is a meeting coming up with the LGA CEO shortly, and I think that's something that CEO and I myself will bring to the fore as well, just to look at that peri-urban concept and just see what is the best fit in the future. Okay, put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. We move to the next item, which is the Legatus Charter Review and Update on 251, on page 251. And there is a recommendation there just highlighting the fact that, and I think this is something that this council's constantly put forward over a number of years, is that the council is the member, not the mayor. And it seems to be a little bit awkward when, for whatever reason, if the mayor can't make it, there's no vote by the deputy unless the mayor is on leave of absence, sort of thing. So it just tidies it up, I think. It brings that to the forefront in the next review.
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Johnston.
Second.
Councillor Angus. Either one wish to speak?
Oh, just to support the notion that the council is a member.
Yep.
And that we need that changed.
Nothing further?
Thank you.
All those in favour? Carried. page 280. Which is the council motor vehicle policy, 7.2.4. Any questions?
The only question I've got is, when is the next review date? What prompts that question is the table that talks about the cost of vehicles. And I'd like to know when the review date's gonna be, because in effect, if it's out too long, we're locking ourselves out of possibly looking at electric vehicles. And that's why I'm just sort of trying to delve a bit deeper when this gets reviewed next.
We can,
Through you, Mr Mayor,
Yep.
can I answer that?
Yep.
So council standard governance framework with our policy review cycle is up to 4 years. However, if there is a business requirement to consider it or a legislative change in the interim, we will come back and review the document in a more frequent manner. And so if there was a intention to move towards electric cars, for example, as part of a broader strategy for sustainability, we could come and revisit this policy at that stage.
That's sufficient.
can be fluid, yep. Any other questions? Would like to, Councillor Angus?
Yeah, I note the removal of the mayoral vehicle from this policy. What's the story behind that? You have a vehicle, do you not?
No, I don't. I chose when I come in as mayor not to
Not to utilise that?
not to utilise that, so obviously the CEO's felt that, you know, I haven't utilised it.
Okay.
And if we remove it, that'll be the position.
Yeah.
Until council or the new council decides
change
to
the law.
reintroduce a mayoral vehicle, but I've got enough cars to wash without another one in the garage. Okay. No further questions? So, like to move the motion? Councillor Hobick, seconded Councillor Hearn. Councillor Hobick, you want to speak to it?
That's very straightforward, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Agreed.
Good. All those in favour? Carried. Seven point 2.5.
Special meeting.
Oh, sorry, okay. I think we can probably just fit this one in before 6. Okay, this is the Legatus nominations for office. The recommendations there.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor De Vries, Councillor Wee Smith. I assume neither one of you wish to speak to it.
I'm gonna talk for 10 minutes if you don't mind.
All those in favour? Carried.
Too quick.
You need someone to move that we adjourn the meeting.
I reckon I can knock the next one over too, because that's pretty straightforward.
I've got 6 o'clock on the 14th.
Okay, once again, the report outlines who can be president and on that, so, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Can I get a mover? Moved Councillor Barrett, and seconded Councillor Schilling.
No, nothing to say.
All those in favour? Carried. Okay, now I'll look for a mover to adjourn to our special meeting. Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Hearn. All those in favour, we'll adjourn for a special meeting. So, welcome to the special meeting. I have an apology from Councillor Troop. Someone move that apology. Councillor Hearn and Councillor Wee Smith. All those in favour? Carried. Now, I'm just going to change the running sheet a little bit, so just bear with me, please. Item 2.1.2 is the annual budget and business plan. As I understand it, we need to adopt that one first. So I'll just change the running sheet a little bit. And so with that, we have the annual budget and business plan that needs to be independently adopted. Any questions? you're not a councillor yet, are you? No. Mr Lay.
Yeah.
He could pretend to be Councillor Miller.
There was a point that I thought you wished to, was it that item or was it one a bit further?
This one.
This one, thank you.
So through you, Mayor, under item 2.1.2, there is an opportunity in the recommendations for the CEO to make minor alterations to the business plan document. Within that particular recommendation 2C, just so that council is aware that I will be just modifying one of the tables within the business plan in the rating section, just to change one of the numbers in there. It doesn't change the effect of any of the financials or any information there. It's just to clarify one of the amounts in there. That was the new tables that the LGA came up with the reform this year. So it was about the dollars that were raised from growth. I was able to fine tune that number today. It was an estimate previously. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved councillor Johnston,
Second.
seconded councillor De Vries. Either one wish to speak?
No, I think we've been through this several times, so
Okay.
happy to move on with it.
What he said.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Now I'll go back to 2.1.1, which is the adoption of the variations for the 2022-23 rating purposes on page 4.
Valuations.
You pardon?
Sorry, through you, Mayor, valuations.
Sorry. Oh, valuations.
Thank you.
Thank you. What did I say?
Variations.
Good point. Just seeing if you were paying attention, Mark.
Move the recommendation, your worship, and I'd be curious to know what would happen if we didn't.
Move councillor De Vries. And seconded councillor Johnston.
For the benefit of the gallery, all we're doing is accepting the Value General's change in valuations. We've got no choice.
All those in favour? Carried. And the next one I need to jump forward to is item 2.1.7 on page 74, which is the declaration of the differential general rate 2022-2023. Any questions?
Move the recommendation.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Schilling. Either one wish to speak?
No, just to note that it's not CPI.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Now we'll continue with the rest of the running sheet, which is item 2.1.3, declaration of fixed charge for rating purposes on page 65.
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved councillor Johnston, seconded councillor Barrett. Either one wish to?
Self-evident, thank you.
Any comments? All those in favour? Carried. Page 67 is the declaration of the waste collection service charge. Moved councillor Hearn, seconded councillor Angus. Either one wish to speak?
We've had enough discussion previously
Thank
on
you.
this.
I need to say, Mayor, that was just passing on what it costs us.
That's right, that's what the fees, yes, that's the charge. All those in favour? Carried. 2.1.5, the declaration of the regional landscape levy on page 69. This is once again just adopting what the government's asking us to
I'll move the
do.
recommendation.
Moved councillor Johnston, seconded councillor De Vries. All those in favour? Carried. Declaration of the community waste water management systems rate and service charge on page 71. Councillor Haybick moved and seconded by councillor Hearn. Either one wish to speak?
I think we've got no option to approve that, Mayor. We'd be in real trouble if we didn't have the wastewater system.
Absolutely.
Maybe in Tanunda.
We'd be right in the, no, I won't say.
All those in favour? Carried. And of course, the last item in the special meeting, 2.1.8, is the payment of rates on page 77.
Move the recommendation.
Moved councillor De Vries and seconded by councillor Angus. All those in favour? Carried. That concludes the special meeting, adoption of rates and the other declarations. So we will now revert back to our agenda. And I'm sure someone will remind me where I was up to.
7.2.7, Mayor.
Beg pardon?
7.2.7.
Page 309.
309, thank you. Got paper everywhere. Thank you. The monthly finance report as at the 30th of June 2022, page 309.
Mr.
You thought you had done your... Right. Any questions while Mr. Lay
Move the
is
recommendation.
here and doesn't leave the meeting?
Move the recommendation. Let's
Move
let him
councillor
go.
Breeze. And seconded by councillor Johnston. Either one wish to speak?
No, I want him to go to dinner.
Okay, any comments?
Oh, just noting that we're catching up on the outstanding rates, Mark. Thank you for that number.
Okay, all those in favour? Carried.
You can go now.
Happy Christmas.
You can now leave, Mr. Lane. Yep. Page 312. Which is the Prudential Management Policy Review, 7.2.8, with a recommendation.
Yeah, move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Schilling. Either one wish to speak?
No, not particularly.
All those in favour? Carried. $321 with 7.3.1 is the annual report on the internal review of council's decisions 2021-2022.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved councillor Reeves, seconded to councillor Wee Smith. Either one wish to speak?
No.
No comments. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried.
It's a sexy agenda tonight.
On page 324, 7.3.2 is the minor update to the internal review of council's decision process.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you, councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Wee Smith. All in favour? Carried. We have on page 338, 7.3.3, the public consultation policy, the removal of the COVID-19 pandemic provisions on page 338.
I'll move the recommendation, Mayor.
Moved councillor Angus,
Yeah, I'll second
Give
it.
councillor.
councillor Hearn, seconded councillor Hearn. Either one wish to speak, pretty straightforward, I guess, the declaration.
Let's hope we don't need it reinstated.
All those in favour? Carried. We now move to page 345, 7.4.1, the Community Assistance Scheme Committee request to increase grant threshold and endorse proposed policy and guidelines.
Move the recommendation.
Second that.
Move councillor Havik. Seconded councillor Johnson. You wish to speak, councillor?
I just think that in this time we need to Move on from $3,000 up to $5,000. You can't do much with $3,000 as far as the grant goes. So I think it's well overdue.
Thank you.
Oh, just an opportunity to encourage people to apply, and recognising that any amount over 5,000 comes directly to the chamber, so at some point we'll consider any application for funding under the scheme, so just to reinforce Councillor Haywick's comment.
Councillor Wee-Smith?
Just a comment, just to say that, yeah, increasing the threshold is greatly gonna assist the committee to actually be able to approve some of those applications that come through that, you know, should be quite straightforward and shouldn't need to come to council, so hopefully we'll get a few more applications now.
Councillor De Vries?
Just a question, pretty much was 3,000 from the start, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
long ago, when was that started?
20 years, maybe.
Actually, many years ago, I think.
1938.
I was trying to remember and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I think it's been
Almost
quite a
like
while.
5 like, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
we'll go with it for now, but maybe we should look at it again next year.
We can just increase the budget.
Yeah.
It took us 4 years to get it
I know.
into the agenda,
Really?
and you wanna change it
Yeah.
next year again?
It'll take another 4 years.
I'm Santa Claus, bring it up and I'll.
Just indulge me with the refund from the lighting overcharge from SA Power Networks. There's quite a pool of money there, so the community ought to be aware there's opportunity.
Okay. Any further comments? All those in favour? Carried. Page 358, the customer service policy review. Council needs to consider the customer service policy as per the document that's been presented, attachment 1. Any questions?
Need the recommendation, your worship.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Angus. Any comments?
No, seems straightforward.
All those in favour? Carried. Next report is 7.4.3 on page 366, which is the Library Services Review Report Approvals. There is a recommendation there which talks about phase 1 and phase 2. I understand there was another submission that has been received and has been discussed and included in the public submissions for as part of the review. Any questions? Councillor Barrett?
Having read that letter that arrived on my desk this evening, just one small question that comes out of that letter. I see that the letter says the Barossa Council should also be able to fund 8 full-time staff members to support the library service. How many members have we got across the library services in council?
Through you, Mayor, can I invite Melissa Witcher up to
Thank
speak
you.
now?
Through the Mayor, we have 3 full-time staff members and the rest of our staff members are part-time. And a total of 18 staff members at the moment. And the part-time are fractional between 2 days and 4 days.
So how many FTE equivalents does that
Ask me
equate to?
that, and I can't tell you off the top of my head, sorry, I could sit down and work it out quickly for you. It would be more than,
More than 8.
it'd be more than 8.
More than 8, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Wee-Smith. Either one wish to speak?
Yeah, just a brief comment on this. There's a number of things in here which I'm curious to see how they tease out over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. Some things may cause, like, there was a couple I noticed was the closure of Anguston, which doesn't seem to be anybody out there that's upset, but often these things cause upset once they're implemented, so I guess time will tell. The other one was closing off libraries at 5 o'clock, or the Newry Library at 5 rather than 5:30, which I can see the logic behind it. some people who are coming home from work may lose the opportunity to pick up their books or drop them off during that time. Well, I think they can drop them off in the bin anyway. But again, given that this is a trial to see how it teases out, I think it's worth seeing what happens. So very, very hard to tell. So I think it's a little bit of a suck it and see, but basically most of the ideas in here I think are obviously beneficial, and the few that may be seen by some as not being what they want, I think let's just see what happens, and we can always go back if we're not happy. So.
Thank you. Councillor Louise-Smith?
No, not much else to say, except I am looking forward to phase 2 and some of the things that we're going to see happen then, so.
That's right, there's the 2 phases to it. Yep. Any further comments? Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried.
Well done.
Thank you.
Next item is 7.5.1, which is the Barossa Rugby Precinct project update, and this is to provide an update on the Barossa Rugby Precinct project and approval to continue with the amended location for the pitch and clubroom facilities arising from the Native Veg Board approval. Any questions that you may have?
Happy to move that one, Mayor.
Move councillor Haybick, seconded councillor Angus. Either one wish to speak?
No,
I think just basically we need to move on with that. It's getting a bit old in the tooth now. And if that doesn't start very soon, it affects a few other things in the big project. So we need to move along there, and it's only a matter of shifting the boundaries of the block up there to compensate for the grasses and trees that they've been talking about.
Thank you. Councillor Angus, did you?
No, thank you. Well, as per Councillor Haybick, we need to move on. Let's get it.
Councillor De Vries?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment to applaud Ms Tappert for getting this over the line, because I know there were many people, including Fraser Vivian at the rugby club, that were very concerned about the delay. Yeah, it was good to know that I was able to, as a councillor, say that the staff are working, pushing heaven and earth to make this work, and they did, and they got it over the line, and well done.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston?
Just to use this as an opportunity to reinforce what Councillor Haybick said, getting rugby out of Lindock is critical to moving football, netball, etc. to Lindock so that we can continue that development. Very important for the southern end of the Barossa.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Yeah, it's a pity Australia didn't win on the weekend.
Thank you.
We're
Thank you,
talking
Mr.
rugby.
Thomas, and pass on my congratulations. Any further comments you wish to add? No? All right. Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. We'll now move to page 540, which is the grass mowing service review, which has been undertaken.
I'll move that recommendation.
Moved Councillor Johnston
Second.
and seconded Councillor Haybick. You wish to speak, Councillor?
Look, I think that those who were present at the workshop were, I was certainly impressed with the depth of detail that was provided and the opportunities that this particular move creates, and so I'll just support this recommendation fully. Thank you.
And just going on from there, I'd like to say that it might be grass mowing, but I didn't realise that we had so many ovals and parks that needed mowing until I read through the list. And I think it's a good move that if we can save in excess of 400,000 over 5 years, that's the area we should be working towards, and we are. The other thing is there was a couple of ovals, pardon me, left off the list, and I made a phone call to Glenn Carter, and he promised me that, he said they are included, and that's the Stockwell Oval and the Eden Valley Oval will be included. So they don't appear there, but they will be part of the new system, which is, I think, excellent.
Thank you. Any other further comment? Alright, I'll put the motion, all those in favour, carried. Members, that concludes our ordinary meeting, other than a confidential item, which is the CEO's performance review outcomes. So with that, I need to ask the gallery that they need to move, and I'll ask for someone to move that we go into confidence.
Yeah.
Sorry. Councillor Angus.
Just before we do, may I make a comment
Yes.
on a statement in the letter that was put on our tables this evening? The statement in the letter says that we effectively started a council workshop on the 1st of June before the allotted time. And I don't think we have ever started workshops or meetings early. The inference is that part of the discussion was missed out on by members of the gallery. And I just want to reassure all of us that we do not start before the allotted time. And I hope you'll all back me up. But I just, I think when I see things that are not quite true or substantiated, I'd just like to point them out.
Yeah, I always go by that clock, and that's always a little bit slower than mine, than the.
I go by eye time, and your meeting starts, 15 or 20 seconds after the allotted time.
Okay.
Well, if there's any concern, it was recorded and.
No, the workshop's on.
Workshop's on? So I don't know.
And it is a workshop, and I know we try to aim for the accuracy of the time as much as we can, so. Okay, with that, I will ask for someone that we go into confidence, someone move that we go into confidence, move councillor Angus, seconded councillor Hearn. All those in favour, we go into confidence, thank you. Okay, with that, members, I formally close the July meeting and look forward to seeing you all again at our next scheduled meeting in August. So with that, good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Little piece of history.